Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Balance Podcast. We are on episode 31 and we're inching closer to the 1 year anniversary of the show. And again, I'm so excited that we've made it this far and I'm hoping to take it to even bigger heights. So, as always, be sure to tell your friends, retweet things. Be sure that you're following us on at the _balance_pod on both Twitter and Instagram. And if you're on Facebook and you're fairly active, there is a page for the Balance Podcast on there. So be sure that you like it and share it with your friends so they can like it as well. So we're going to start the show off with some news that's been going viral. So one of the news that I've read is that a 6-year-old who's unvaccinated had the first case of tetanus in over 30 years in Oregon, and he was hospitalized for 57 days and it incurred like $1 million in hospital costs. Now listen, I'm not here to tell anybody how to raise their children because I know if I was a mother and when I would become a mother, that would be annoying. You can't tell me what to do. However, you don't understand when you don't vaccinate your children based off of ableist ideologies like fear of autism, which we'll get into later. But when you do that, you're placing your child at such great risk. And not only your child, but you're placing other children at risk of diseases and things like that. And other parents might not want your children, because I know I wouldn't. They might not want their children playing with unvaccinated kids. So you're impacting not only your child's, physical health, but also their social life. And again, a lot of people base it upon like, oh, it causes autism, which is so many times been proven false. But besides that, the fear of autism, again, if you're going to be a parent, you have to accept your child as is, whatever may come, whether it's a child that's mentally ill, there's a child that has, whatever disabilities, whether it's mental or physical. You have to accept your child as is. You're like, it's very ableist. Like you don't want to do something that's proven to be healthy and beneficial to your child in fear of making them a less perfect child. Again, when you give birth, you don't know what you're going to get. And as a mother, like I said, you should be prepared for whatever comes your way, or as a father, whatever comes your way. You're supposed to have unconditional love for your child. So that fear of your child being less than perfect or contracting something, what is it based in? There's not, like, again, autism, yes, they have to learn differently. Yes, there's special measures that have to be taken. But inherently, there's nothing so scary about it that you would put your child at risk for being in the hospital for 57 days and incurring all these unnecessary medical costs. And again, interfering with other children's health and safety. Like Washington had to declare a state of emergency because of a measles outbreak due to anti-vax parents. Like, this is real and this is serious. And again, not cool. But again, I'm not here to tell anyone how to raise their children, but I am here to offer valid opinions and facts on things and to tell the truth when the truth is needed. So, in short, there's nothing wrong with having an autistic child. They can live happy, healthy lives. So we're going to move on to the next news article that went viral. And the story is going viral now, but it was actually an article that was published in a situation that happened in 2011. So in essence, a Pennsylvania judge by the name of Mark Ciravella Jr. was sentenced to 28 years in prison in connection to a bribery scandal that involved the state's juvenile justice system. So essentially, he took $1 million in bribes from developers of juvenile detention centers, and he would basically send juveniles to the same centers, and it was known as Kids for Cash. No doubt in my mind that these kids are probably black and brown kids that were sentenced to the juvenile detention centers, and it just kind of again speaks to the prison industrial complex, how private prisons are extremely profitable, and the more bodies that you got in these beds, the more money you get. And so it's the same type of thing going on here. And again, juveniles and kids, they are robbed of their innocence so early. I mean, between this and things like the school to prison pipeline, where your kids start getting arrested for maybe throwing up, and I'm not making this up, for throwing, a pencil or balling up paper and throwing it or what have you, and they're arrested at these young ages. Like Jay-Z and Roc Nation, they helped get this 6-year-old kid out of these charges because he was arrested for not, standing or reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. So all these different things, they start young, and that's just, again, to feed them into this all for profit, all for money, because, our bodies are always meant to be controlled, and they were always seen as profitable in some type of way. And whether that's in the prison system or whether that's, in the NFL or the NBA, what have you, but that's a story for another day. But yeah, so I'm just glad to hear a happy ending to this story, because in the end, he got the 28 years in prison, and they tossed 4,000 convictions issued by him between 2003 and 2008, saying that he violated their constitutional rights, including their right to legal counsel and their right to intelligently enter a plea. So the last viral story that we're going to cover in today's episode made me angry. So a Missouri man who is suffering from stage 4 pancreatic cancer, and if you know anything about cancer, which I'm sure everybody does in this day and age, unfortunately, it's super deadly itself. But then for stage 4, you're fighting for your life essentially. So anyway, the hospital security guard called the police on him because his room smelled like marijuana. And it's like the man is suffering from cancer and he's just trying to feel better, and you go and call the police on him. He's actually white. Let me make that clarification, the person who has pancreatic cancer. But anyway, so they call the police, and then they come in and ask, oh, were you smoking weed in here? And he's like, no, but I did take some THC cannabis pills. And they then proceeded to search the room, and so him and his wife, they recorded. And so anyway, it's funny that this whole search took place in the sense that he told them that he used it to help him. But again, the key point here is that he wanted to take these THC pills and wanted to take those over the opioids that the hospital offered. And it's all a huge game. Hospitals and big pharma and the pharmaceutical industries, they're all connected. So it's just interesting that all this happened because he wanted to take what made him feel better over what the opioids were. And in the state, Missouri, medical marijuana is in fact legal. I believe they're still trying to finalize the initial paperwork on it, and to which the cop actually responded, well, then to me it's still illegal, while he was searching the room. But again, I just feel like there's some connect between the two, and it's outrageous to me. Like, let the man get his relief where he can. He's not hurting anybody. He's just trying to help himself along in this fight. Before we wrap up this section, I just want to say that I find it interesting that I had to clarify that, the police were called on a white man, smoking weed, or not even smoking weed, but they thought he was smoking weed because it smelled like marijuana in his room. But anyway, because again, like in the news, like black people aren't afforded the same, and I was not even just say black people, but all minorities aren't afforded the same type of rights to just live and be. Like, cops called on them for taking pictures on a sidewalk in a popular park, or selling water or lemonade, or whatever that is so innocent. Cops are called. So it's just crazy to me that I had to offer that clarification. But moving forward, we are going to take a quick break, and then we'll be right back. And we're back with breaking celebrity news. So, Lori Loughlin, who played Aunt Becky on Full House and the revamped Fuller House on Netflix, along with Felicity Huffman, who played Lynette on Desperate Housewives, were arrested along with 48 others on charges related to bribery with elite colleges in the country. So, according to TMZ, at the time of this recording, Felicity is still in custody, and she's being charged with conspiracy to commit mail fraud and honest services mail fraud. And so she's going to be released on signature bond, which is basically a promise to appear in court. So Felicity paid $15,000 to participate in a college entrance exam cheating scheme on behalf of her eldest daughter. So basically, her daughter was given twice the amount of time to take the SATs as other students, and the proctor agreed to secretly correct her answers afterwards. Now, Aunt Becky, aka Laura Loughlin, she and her husband, who has also been charged, paid allegedly $500,000 to have their two daughters designated as recruits for the crew team at USC, despite the fact that they did not actually participate in the crew. Now, USC is the University of Southern California, not University of South Carolina, just to, be specific. And the other schools in this scandal are Yale, Stanford, and Georgetown. Now, I'm not going to go into all of the details, but the U.S. Attorney's Office, and yes, they're involved because this is a federal investigation. The FBI is involved in all of that. So they named William Rick Singer as the ringleader. And so parents paid between $200,000 and $400,000 for his help, and some payments went as high as $6.5 million. Now, the thing for me in all of this is, if, let's say, Aunt Becky's child had a learning disability. I'm sorry, not her child, but Felicity's child had a learning disability because, she took 2 extra hours. You can ask for that on the basis of a learning disability. You don't have to bribe anybody, but I'm pretty sure she doesn't have a learning disability. In fact, Aunt Becky's daughter did a whole post that garnered a lot of attention about her, saying she doesn't care about school. And a lot of people were calling her privileged, which she obviously is. So going back to Felicity, her daughter is probably the same way. So anyway, again, she could have used that route, but also there's a thing of they took someone else's spot who could have earned the right to be there, and people want to speak on affirmative action for blacks, which, by the way, affirmative action mostly helps white women, not us. And this type of stuff is happening. I'm not surprised, but it's scorching hot tea because of the celebrities that have been named that are involved in this. But another thing for me is the fact that these are people with means to pay for their kids to get proper SAT prep and ACT prep and to get all the things, like people to help them work on their college, essays and all this. They have the means to properly prepare their children to get into these schools that, minorities or other marginalized groups do not have. They don't. That's why, sometimes they don't score as high, and not because of achievement gaps or inability to learn, but because they don't have the same resources to get there, as we all know. So again, this is just reeking of privilege, of white privilege, which is real. So moving on, I actually meant to talk about this in the segment for last week, but hey, better late than never, right? According to Drake. So we're going to talk about it this week, even though most of you are on vacation right now, on spring break right now. But here's some ideas for next year. So thinking about expensive places, Curacao. There's one to go. So I was just looking around, and you can get 4 nights and breakfast with air for $509. The Dominican Republic, you can get an all-inclusive 5 nights with air for $639. Cancun, you can get an all-inclusive 3 nights with air for $549. Bahamas, 3 nights with air, $639. And then Jamaica, you can get an all-inclusive 3 nights with air from $719. And then Antigua and Barbuda, you can get an all-inclusive 5 nights with air, $889. It's 5 nights. $889 sounds crazy, but when you think about it, 5 nights air, it's not that bad. But I also wanted to look up something a little bit different for when it comes to travel. So a friend of mine, she went on a retreat where she couldn't use her phone or anything like that. It was a spiritual retreat for about 10 days. And she just came back smiling and relaxed and just like she's living her best life. So I thought I would look up some affordable wellness retreats. So there's 8 that I found. And so one is Abbey Resort in Fontana, Wisconsin, $109 a night. The Cheyenne Mountain, Colorado Springs, a Dulce Resort, of course, is in Colorado Springs, $70 a night. There's the Elevation Hotel Spa in Colorado, $124 a night. There's Sycamore Mineral Springs Resort and Spa in St. Louis, California, so $219 a night. And then there's the Surf Maroc Villa, $99 a night. And then there's the Art of Living Retreat Center in North Carolina, and that's $451 a night. And then you have one that's in Quebec City, Canada, Le Monastère des Augustines in Quebec. And so, yeah, it's $110 a night. So those are 8 ideas. And I thought I would incorporate travel because I'm really trying to travel this year. And I say it every year. And I know so many of us do, but I think it's so important to travel just to relax, unwind, learn new cultures, and just see the world, like experience, because you can be alive, but are you living? And that echoes in my head so much because I don't want to just be alive. I want to live my life. I want to have so many memories, so many things. And I talked about it with a colleague at work, and she wants to say that when she goes to heaven and she's up there with God on Judgment Day, and not in terms of what she did wrong or what she did right, but she wants to be able to say that she has a list. I did that, I did that, I did that, and all these fun things that she can remember, all of this life that she lived. And that echoes in my head too. And I think more of us need to think like that and live like that. And she's a little bit older than me, but she's just out here living life, and it's inspirational to me. And I think that, finance is willing, we can try it. Now, one thing I want to highlight, because people always talk about Canada as the savior place, sort of, and they always like, oh, we're going to move to Canada or whatever. And it's like, Canada has their own issues too. Like, for instance, in 2017, reports say that hate crimes in Canada went up almost 50%. The exact estimated percentage is 47%, but literally that is huge. So in 2017, 43% of them were motivated by race or ethnicity. So if you are black or like Hispanic, probably isn't for you. 41% motivated by hate of religion, which Muslims, of course, is what it's referencing, and they saw the sharpest increase. And then, of course, Jews as well. And 10% by sexual orientation. So it's not the savior place or this great place that we try and make it out to be. So wrapping up and moving to our last segment of the show. Personally, okay, so in undergrad, I took a birth and parenthood course. And for me, it kind of changed my perspective on how I wanted my birth to be and when I have kids. And I just learned so much. And so for me, I plan to have a water birth. And I say that shakily because, life can have so many twists and turns and you never know what can happen. And, the pain might change my mind. But I'm determined to have a water birth, maybe at home, maybe at a center, don't know. But anyway, I also plan, of course, to have a midwife, but also a doula. And so I thought it would be helpful and just to kind of give people options about what is a doula, what is a midwife, how does it work, what are the benefits? Because as we know, like for maternal health, just speaking in a general platform, the U.S. has the worst rates of maternal mortality in the developed world, and it's steadily increasing. And then if you think about Black maternal health specifically, we know that Black women are at risk, for death and complications by 243% more than their white peers. So I think that it'd be very helpful to give people options because you don't have to have your birth in a hospital in that type of setting. You can move away from that. And in fact, it can be healthier and have more benefits because one of the things that we learned in that birth and parenthood class in my sociology course, when that was my minor, is that they actually have higher rates of success and lower rates of mortality than if you give birth in hospitals. So yeah, anyway, we're going to go ahead and just jump into stuff. So what is a doula? So I was introduced to a doula by Tia Mowry, and I'm saying that like I know her personally, but I was watching her reality show that she had with Tamara a couple of years ago when she was getting about to give birth to Cree. And so it was interesting to me. So a doula is a trained professional who provides continuous physical, emotional, informational support to a mother before, during, and shortly after childbirth, just to kind of help her live her healthiest, most satisfying life and have the best experience possible. So what are some of the benefits of having a doula? Because I know you're probably wondering. So for me, physical support, that's a huge one. So they help give you position ideas for comfort and, labor progression. And they cross over the hands with on comfort measures like comforting touch, counter pressure, breathing techniques, and quote unquote other doula magic. And so their skilled hand positioning tools can often help a malpositioned baby find its way through the pelvis and into the birthing parent's arms. So that's huge for me. But they also provide, emotional support. They ease the emotional experience of birth, especially for first time moms. And they help create a space where the hormones of labor can work at their best, not their worst. So some more, kind of benefits of maternity care. So you're less likely to need to have a C-section. You're less likely to use any pain medication, and you're more likely to rate your childbirth experience positively. And you're also less likely to need Pidocan or Pitocin, however you pronounce the medication. So kind of moving on, what is a midwife? So they're a healthcare professional who provides a broad array of healthcare services for women, including gynecological exams, contraceptive counseling, prescriptions, labor delivery, of course, and delivery care. And so kind of thinking, again, what are the benefits of having a midwife? So you have decreased risk, again, of needing a C-section, reduced rates of labor induction, augmentation, reduced use of regional anesthesia. You have decreased infant mortality rates, which I was speaking on, decreased risk of preterm birth, decreased third and fourth degree perineal tears. Okay, ladies, you don't want to get that tear. And huge, way lower cost than if you do give birth at a hospital. And so you also have increased chances of having a positive start to breastfeeding, and just in general, like with doulas, increased satisfaction with your quality of care. So I hope this segment was helpful, and I hope that you guys will kind of look into doulas and midwives, because I'm just giving a general, very broad, overview of what they are and the benefits of them. But I know for sure that that's the route I'm going. Now, whether I'm going to do it at a center and at home, still, shaky, but I truly believe in making the birthing experience as healthy as possible for me and my child, and, as positive and sentimental as possible, because you get that direct connection that way between the birth itself, and just the direct connection between being able to immediately touch your baby and hold your baby to your chest and not be charged $39.95 for it, like some people have shown on their medical receipts for skin and skin contact, or how babies, babies are sometimes taken away from you before you can even really get to connect with them at hospitals. So again, so many benefits. Hope you all look into it. So yeah, I hope this episode was helpful. I hope you loved it. I hope you laughed. I hope you learned all of that. So just keep listening every week. Keep telling your friends. Again, be following me on the social media pages. Subscribe. Get your friends to do that too. And I'll see you next week. Bye, y'all.